Can we imagine a scenario where the state's focus on political dissent distracts it from real threats to national security? The recent Moscow massacre paints a chilling picture of this possibility. Over 140 lives were tragically lost in a shocking attack at a concert hall, an assault claimed by the dreaded ISIS-K. Both President Putin and President Zelensky reacted swiftly, but their perspectives starkly contrasted. Putin pointed fingers at Ukraine without substantial evidence, while Zelensky drew attention to Russia's neglect of the rising ISIS-K threat, consumed as it was with the situation in Ukraine. Critics have echoed Zelensky's sentiments, arguing that the Kremlin's eye was taken off the ball, focusing more on political dissent and less on looming terror threats. An incident of such magnitude forces us to question if the Kremlin's preoccupation with Ukraine allowed for this horrific attack to occur. What were the underlying factors that led to this devastating security lapse? This question has been echoing across the globe in the aftermath of the Moscow massacre. To understand this, we need to look at the recent shift in focus of Russian security forces. In recent years, these forces have been increasingly preoccupied with suppressing political dissent, independent media, and civil society groups. This trend has only intensified following the occupation of Ukraine. Many opposition factions have been labeled as extremist, which has led to a stifling of voices that challenge the Kremlin's narrative. One of the most significant instances of this crackdown was the death of opposition leader Alexei Navalny in February. Navalny was a prominent critic of Putin's regime, and his demise dealt a serious blow to the opposition. His political network found itself listed alongside extremist and terrorist organizations in state observer records, including various LGBTQ+ groups. Leonid Volkov, a prominent ally of Navalny, has been vocal about this issue. He has pointed out that the preoccupation of security forces with political repression has diverted attention away from real threats to national security. In essence, the state's obsession with hunting suspected Ukrainian agents and suppressing opposition voices has come at the price of overlooking genuine threats. This sentiment is echoed by Andrei Kolesnikov, a senior researcher at the Carnegie Russia Eurasia Center. He notes that while security forces concentrate on critics of the Kremlin, they have been inadequate in addressing real threats to the country. Despite warnings from the United States about a potential attack in Russia earlier in March, Putin dismissed such alerts as an attempt to intimidate or blackmail Russians and the Kremlin. This disregard for potential threats and the subsequent blaming of Ukraine for the attack serves to deflect attention from the Kremlin's own security vulnerabilities. In this scenario, the real threats to national security, such as the ISIS-K threat, were overlooked, leading to a catastrophic security failure. This conclusion is a sobering reminder of the potential consequences when political agendas and repression overshadow the crucial task of ensuring national security. What are the implications of this massacre for the future of Russia and its political landscape? This question lingers heavily in the air as we scrutinize the aftermath of the Moscow massacre. The attack's aftermath has been marred by President Putin's dismissive attitude towards the warnings from the United States about a potential attack. He branded these alerts as attempts to intimidate or blackmail Russians and the Kremlin. This dismissal, despite the horrendous loss of life, is a stark reminder of the Kremlin's insistence on maintaining its narrative at all costs. But this narrative is not without its consequences. Putin's hasty accusation, blaming Ukraine for the attack, does more than just stir international tensions. It serves to deflect attention from the evident vulnerabilities in Russia's security infrastructure. More insidiously, it could potentially fuel an increase in repression against dissenting voices within the country. In the face of criticism, Putin's strategy has been to avoid it outright. His refusal to acknowledge the performance failures of authorities in preventing the massacre is a chilling indicator of the state's approach to dissent. It suggests a continuance of the suppression that has become all too common within the country's political landscape. The recent securing of another 6-year term by Putin casts a long shadow on the future. With no public scrutiny in sight, it is anticipated that he will remain insulated from the consequences of his administration's actions. The role of state-controlled broadcasters and media outlets in this cannot be overstated. They continue to emphasize Putin's narrative regarding Ukraine's role in the attack, diverting attention from the poor performance of law enforcement agencies. The Moscow massacre raises grave questions about the state of Russia's national security and its political future, as we witness a narrative shift that may further suppress dissent and real threats to the nation.